Hi and welcome to another karting video. This time we have reached the penultimate round of the Club 100 Sprint 60 Championship in 2021 and we're back at Lydd for the second time this season. Lydd is actually only about a mile away from the English Channel, right in the southeast corner of Kent, and it does have a bit of a reputation of having slightly unpredictable weather. And on my way down to the circuit on Saturday morning, the rain was just unbelievably heavy, and I wasn't really entirely sure that when I got there I'd see the endurance teams out on track, but they were racing, and we followed them. As you can see, we were quite lucky actually and got the best of the conditions across Saturday and Sunday. If you've seen the live stream from the sprint racing on Sunday, the conditions were awful, but it wasn't without its challenges. And the video here from practice and qualifying, you can see the track surface is still quite damp, it's quite slippy, there's people sliding off the circuit, so it's not entirely easy. I was quite fortunate in many ways, because the previous time we raced in the wet was at Whilton Mill in May, and I really struggled with the conditions, never got happy with the kart, had numerous spins in qualifying and the race, and just had a pretty bad day, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect here, but actually found the track pretty grippy even in the wet and had a huge amount of fun just sliding the kart around on the gas. Only had one half spin in the first chicane in the whole 15-minute session, but unfortunately when it came to qualifying, I got stuck with some traffic and didn't set a decent lap. As the session went on, obviously you can see there's blue sky, the sun's out. As the session went on, the track evolved, got quicker and quicker, and obviously to get your fastest lap you had to have a clean lap right at the end of the session, and as I said, I was caught behind a slower kart, so didn't really manage to set a representative lap, and ended up 35th on the grid, which is a bit frustrating. But nonetheless, as I said, there's someone just having an unbelievably slow speed spin right in front of me going onto the back straight. As I said, I still really enjoyed driving in that session, and it gave me a bit of confidence again that I could drive in the wet and that I hadn't completely lost it. So in that respect it was pretty good, and as we'll see later, another spinner, conditions throughout the afternoon did evolve, so this was the wettest really it got or was at any one point, so having survived this reasonably well, at least that wasn't too bad going into the race itself. On to race one. At this point I should probably have added either some circus clown music or perhaps the Benny Hill theme tune. If you're young, you can go and look up Benny Hill on the internet. But I don't want to get a copyright strike. This weekend I was using a GoPro Max 360 degree camera for the first time, and somehow managed to get the camera to go into time-lapse mode for race one. Now this is a really good way to compress 30 minutes of a race into 3 minutes, but in this case it was actually an interesting race, and I can't really show much of it because, as you can see, the footage is somewhat hilariously speeded up. As I mentioned about qualifying, I ended up 35th on the grid, which was not great. But by the end of the race, I had actually managed to make up 7 places to finish 28th, which I thought, given the situation, wasn't terribly bad. The conditions were better than qualifying. The track was a lot drier than it had been during practice, but during the race we did have a few showers on and off, which you'll probably see at some point. There'll be a few drops appearing on the camera, which did make life a little bit more difficult. And you can see the rain has started, and just kind of slowed the footage down as much as I could. Here I've gone wide on the final corner, and then I've had a spin, but you can see off in the distance there's about 3 or 4 more karts who've actually ended up in the bark chippings as well on the final corner, so I wasn't alone. Coming to the end of the race, it was drizzling a bit again, and at this point I was caught by Steve Linley, who made a move to get past me. He was higher up. I was being lapped. Didn't quite come off, but he was actually kind enough to apologise to me after the race and say, didn't mean to do that. But to be honest, at this point there wasn't anyone around me. It wasn't really any bother. I mean, I didn't come off the track or anything. But what I did do, and you'll see in a minute, is follow him right off the track over the nasty monster curb, which leads onto the back straight right at the end of the race, which was just a bit stupid, really. But I was fortunate enough to not get penalised for that daft move right at the end of the race. So good, strong showing in race 1 and onto race 2, where conditions would be much drier than we'd seen previously. So on to race 2, which did start in fairly dramatic fashion. So thankfully none of the 3 drivers you're going to see involved in an incident shortly were badly injured and did manage to make the restart, which was good to see. I mean, in the 2 years that I've been racing with Club 100, I mean, there have been numerous minor incidents, people push wide, the odd kind of fairly robust shunt on occasion, but thankfully I've never really seen anyone end up being hurt in any way, or certainly in any significant way. This weekend at Lydd, actually, on the Saturday, we had somebody who retired from race 1 and didn't make race 2 from what looked like a fairly nasty shunt at the parabolica at the bottom of the circuit. And then we have this incident we're going to see here shortly in race 2. So as you can see, the track is pretty dry now. The pits have been damp, but as we head out onto the circuit itself, it's fairly dry. There's the odd puddle or patch here and there, but certainly definitely the best conditions we've had. Thus folks, there's quite a wet line here coming into the second of the chicanes. But as we come down to the parabolica, it's pretty much dry all the way through there. And then the following corner, there is a nasty puddle here on the apex, and I think it's turn 6, just there, which is, if you catch it enough, you just lose a bit of front end grip, and it just puts you wide for the important run into the back straight, which I managed to do in the race we get started. So we're coming around to the final corner, ready to take the start. Looking pretty even, which is good. Race starts have not been my strength this season, it has to be said, but nevertheless. Right, it's coming around the final corner, the lights are green and we're ready to go. fairly even start, not too bad, but at this point the guy in front of me gets a poor exit out of the first chicane and I lose a ton of time behind him. But what was about to happen in front of us, it wasn't right. So there's a car on the apex, the guy in the red tries to avoid him, locks up, straight in, a massive hit, and then another car following. Again, it's both of them, another massive hit. Nasty accident. I was lucky to avoid it around the outside, and then coming through Parabolica, we then come to the next marshal post, and no surprise really, there's a red flag out. As I say, it's a pretty nasty accident, quite heavy impact for all three guys concerned, but thankfully they weren't badly hurt and they got to make the restart. So basically the first race, first start was null and void. We start again, everyone back in their original grid positions, but with a reduced duration of 25 minutes instead of 30. So here we go, on to race start number 2 for race 2, going through the final corner again. Lights are green, off we go. Not too uneven start again, but I just kind of get shuffled out and just lose a whole bunch of places. Coming out of the first chicane is a bit frustrating. It's just an awful start really. Coming out of the second chicane, somebody gets driven straight into the tyre wall, so I managed to make up a place there. But as I mentioned earlier on, the track conditions at this point are pretty much as good as they were all weekend. I think maybe the lights who went after us maybe got obviously the best of the conditions and tried up even more, but certainly this was as good as it was going to get. But for whatever reason, I just struggled. When I look back at the lap times, the quick guys matched their times from when we were here in June, but I was at least a second and a half off the lap times that I'd set in June, which was just a bit frustrating ultimately. I mean, here you can see there's a massive group of cars. They haven't really got away from me, but also I'm really not closing up either. I think we're just losing time out of the corners. I'm not even going to try and say that, oh, perhaps it was the car wasn't great in the mid-range or something, or low down. I just think I just wasn't on it. Wasn't focused. And just kind of drove a bit within myself, didn't push myself. So some of the people who were out of position from race 1 due to various incidents and accidents behind me here. And in a minute you're going to see them come past. I'm just a bit slow coming out of the second chicane, and once one person gets past you, it's not unusual that if there's one following closely behind them, potentially 2 get past. And I just left a massive gap going into that corner. Didn't really defend the position at all, and no surprise the guys drove past, so making it a half attempt to try and get back past coming into the final corner, but all that does is makes me slow coming out the final corner, and you can see these guys just drive away from me. Particularly chicane 1, just not quick, and they've already gapped me significantly. Close up a bit on the brakes, but even so, it's just not great, really. See the pack, I was relatively close by, miles away. Now I'm going to hit the puddle out of that corner, turn 5, turn 6, whatever it is. You can see I've got way wide. My line is the corner leading off the back straight is just diabolical. I lose quite a bit of time there to the pack in front. When you see those 2 guys that passed me, they closed up on the pack in front, and I am really nowhere to be seen. Quite frustrating. A couple of karts there off coming out of chicane 1, so you know, I'll make that place up, but it doesn't really help me. Now these guys have kind of slowed up a bit. They've obviously been fighting, so I did manage to close up, but again, pace is just generally poor. I'm in the 48th at this point. That's almost 3 seconds slower than I went due. It's just as you can see, there's a massive scrap here. They're all going 2, even attempting to go 3 wide at one point. So I close back up, which is great for me. Come out the final corner. There's a bit more argy-bargy and gesticulating, and then this poor guy gets shunted straight out onto the grass. So quite lucky for me to make the place back up, but you know, ultimately, as we're going to see, it doesn't really help me long term, because now we're getting back into the rhythm of it again. The pack in front stretching out. I'm not really closing up, and again, just really suffering due to the fact that, you know, three laps all in the 48s. At this point, the guys in the front aren't doing 45s 2 or 3 laps in, you know, and then they're going to get to the 44s. So it's just, yeah, pace just isn't there. I don't really have any excuses. I don't, just wasn't good enough. Maybe because of the mixed conditions. Maybe I was so focused and so worried about driving the way that I then didn't kind of switch my brain back on to driving the dry. Remember all the things I'd learned and the good things I'd done back in the summer. So I'm about to reel off another lap. Oh my god, I managed to get into the 47s. So coming through here, the camera's now going to swing back behind me again, because I'm going to be caught by some faster people, and I'm going to have to start defending, because again I've lost the pack completely. They're nowhere to be seen, so I'm going to have to do something about these guys behind me. So 1, 2, almost 3, yeah, 3, I think we have 3 come through, and then behind is the chap, Stephen Farmer, who got quite unceremoniously dumped out onto the edge of the track a couple of the laps previously. So at this point, I do start defending. I mean, Stephen is ultimately a little bit quicker than me at this time, but normally we're there or thereabouts, so I'm going to start defending a bit harder. See, I'm not having any of it there. He's now trying to go around the outside. Still not having any of it. Onto the back straight. Is he there? Is he still there? Yeah, you can see he dropped back a bit. He's still there. He's kind of coming back at me. Right. I have a try into the first chicane. No. Again, not having it there. Out the first chicane, coming into the second chicane. Now he's got a bit more of a run on me here, so I'm a bit wide, and that really compromises my exit out of the second chicane. You can see now he's right alongside. We come into the parabolica, and at that point, you know, there's no point in me chopping back across in front of him. That's just going to end in tears. And already he's getting me wrong quite a bit. To be fair, you know, I think I held him out for a couple of laps or something. So, you know, reasonable, and he was, you know, very sensible, very patient. He probably thought he'd get past me eventually anyway, easily enough. So back. Oh, there's someone going very slowly there. I think that might have been Richard Newton, who was the guy involved in the the bad crash in the first start. It's going the red that ends up locking up and sliding across into the kart before being caught by someone else. So at this point I've slipped back to 31st from my starting position, 28th, which is just a bit frustrating. I mean, normally you'd hope to make up at least a couple of places at minimum, just through people having incidents or penalties or things like that, but it really didn't work out. And as I mentioned previously, the pacement just wasn't there. You know, I got adrift from the pack, and I was pretty much on my own for most of the race by this point. There's not really much more to say. You know, I just didn't perform quite at the level I could have done, and that's evident by a lot of the guys I normally race. You know, towards the back end of the grid, had much better weekends than me, finished much higher up, which is just a bit frustrating. But you know, it's just one of those things. Some days you just don't perform and you can't really put your finger on why. Just a bit frustrating because I'd had so much fun in the wet earlier on, and kind of managed to, you know, kind of get over that handing the car in the damp and allowing it to slide, and just generally had a lot of fun. Maybe if it had been wetter throughout the day, maybe that would have played to my favour, because it just generally seemed to be a bit smooth and happy, but who knows. So jumping forward towards the end of the race, you know, at this point I've had quite a bit of traffic come past me, and the only small mercy is we're going to come through, I think it's 1 or 2 laps from the end, and someone's car has just broken down, which is pretty unfortunate, to be honest, which moves me up to 30th, so a loss of 2 places from my starting position. As I said, without repeating myself again and again, just my overall pace just wasn't where it was in June. And you know, there's no point in dwelling on it. It wasn't fast enough. Other people were quicker. I was very lucky in race 1, which obviously I couldn't show you for reasons of my inability to operate the camera properly. But race 2 just wasn't there, and you know, things just didn't work out. Other people didn't have issues. There weren't huge number of penalties, and I just ended up. Oh, now I'm being passed almost by 2 people simultaneously. That's what embarrassing. But it is what it is. Got to learn. Some days things don't work out for you, and even though it was, you know, steady and smooth, just wasn't quick enough. Oh, there's the car that's stuck. Dead, so I make up a place through someone else's misfortune. But anyway, it is what it is. So we move on to the final race of the season, back at Bayford Meadows. Now, again, Bayford I struggled at. It was quite low grip when we were there, and particularly the technical middle section I just couldn't really get on with. So I'm hoping to do a bit of studying before we go, and hoping for a bit of a stronger finish to the season. But we'll see. But if you've made it this far, listen to me moan about my lack of pace. Thank you. And hopefully we'll get to the end of the season with maybe a slightly better showing, which will be good. But all in all, I've really enjoyed this season. I've driven more than I had previously. It's definitely helped me. And, you know, once the dust has settled, I'm sure I'll look over it, review a bunch of footage, and maybe come up with something to summarise the season and how I feel about it when looking forward to round 11, final of the season.